Dear all, a very warm welcome to the Havells Presents Spotlight, a series organized by Realty Plus Masterclass. Friends, Spotlight is a monthly webinar series exploring the dynamics of lighting, featuring nationally and internationally acclaimed lighting consultants, designers, and experts who will share their knowledge and expertise on the future trends in the world of lighting. I'm Sapna Srivastava, editor Realty Plus magazine, and let's begin with a brief introduction of Realty Plus. So friends, Realty Plus magazine is part of Exchange for Media and Business World Group. The monthly publication is the real estate vertical of the group and was created to cater to the needs of the real estate business. For the past 16 years, Realty Plus has been at the forefront of news and stories influencing the world of real estate. It was also recognized as the best real estate magazine by Naredco, the governing body of Indian real estate. Apart from, our monthly magazine is available as print as well as digital edition. Apart from our monthly magazine, the Realty Plus series of collector's edition coffee table books are premium editions launched once in a year, spotlighting prominent personalities, products, and brands of the real estate industry. Our recent release is the Realty Plus Super CXOs, India's top realty influencers. This is the coffee table book, which features Indian Realty's dynamic super CXOs who are transforming the sector through their leadership and vision. Moving on from the publications, Realty Plus Conclave and Excellence Awards virtual series features eminent speakers, engaging discussions, and lively virtual awards ceremonies felicitating the top performers in the Indian real estate, prop tech, co-working, and building product segments. What's more, under this series, we have also taken the initiative to recognize achievers under 40 years of age in the real estate, and the event is scheduled very soon on June 26, 2021, where we will be featuring these young talents in the aim to encourage the young leadership across the segments in the real estate sector. Realty Plus also produces various online products and events under its Realty Plus Digital Connect initiative. Under this umbrella, we have Realty Plus Masterclass webinars, such as the one we have today, where we feature subject matter experts and industry leaders in an insightful and informative conversation on current and relevant topics. We also have the Realty Plus Real Talk series that features video interviews with influential leaders from varied segments of real estate to share their honest views and opinions. Not to be missed, every morning we have the Realty Plus e-newsletter that goes out with latest news, views, and opinions from across realty sector of India and the world. We are also very strong on the social media platforms, and that is how we stay connected with our readers, peers, and partners and promote our products. So this was a brief snippet of what Realty Plus is all about. And in case you would like to know more about us, do get in touch with our publisher and business head, Ms. Tripti Kedia. Coming back to the program of today, let me now welcome Ms. Sudeshna Mukhopadhyay, who is the Vice President for Havells India Limited. Ms. Sudeshna, a very warm welcome to you. Let me give a brief introduction of Ms. Sudeshna. Ms. Sudeshna has 34 years of extensive global leadership experience in lighting technology, application, design, global project management, and user research, both in India and Asia Pacific region. Ms. Mukhopadhyay is well exposed to global markets in Middle East, Europe, and the US, handling several cross-border projects. She also teaches lighting applications at leading institutes in India and is a member in various committees and author of codes, standards, chapters in Bureau of Indian Standards, National Lighting Code, ISHRE, GRIHA, IGBC, and CII Energy Council. She is also a member of the CIETC 342 Internal Commission on Illumination Vienna and a fellow of the Indian Society of Lighting Engineers. I would request Ms. Mukhopadhyay to please join me and share her thoughts on the Spotlight series that we are doing today.
Thank you, Sapna. I'm very humbled by your introduction of me. Yes, it's been quite a journey for me in the lighting industry. And we are in a very interesting situation now, or as I said, that it's not a junction, but it's the next step in lighting we are all poised to take off. The Spotlight series of from Havells is a very important platform for us, a very important property for us, where we bring in leading personalities, the international personalities, to share their perspectives on topics, which is going to be the future, which is going to be the shaping the future for everyone, users, designers, and definitely, our own people as well, for the users of lighting. So this is a platform where it is a knowledge sharing platform for us. It's not about only a Havells product platform, but definitely it's a knowledge sharing platform, because we strongly believe with this shared knowledge from international and global leading experts, this is how the industry would grow, and we would be able to implement these practices, the global practices, the knowledge, the concepts also in our own country. So yes, we are very proud to be associated with Realty Plus with this series, and this is a monthly webinar for us, and I'm sure we have a very, very important speaker today. I'm not going to take much time and hand it over to you for his introduction.
Thank you, Sudeshna. Thank you so much. You are right. Design is one segment which is constantly evolving, and it's a constant process of learning from each other. So let's bring on stage the star of the day. Let me introduce our speaker of today's session, Dr. Carsten Ehrling, founding partner and managing director, Liquvision. Dr. Carsten acts as the global leader for Liquvision and all its offices. He received his doctorate in 1997 from the Technical University in Berlin, where his doctoral thesis dealt with the use and analysis of daylight in architecture. Carsten has been a regular lecturer at the University of Applied Sciences, Wismar, Germany, and is guest lecturer at many other universities throughout Europe and Asia. So let me welcome Dr. Carsten Ehrling, founding partner and managing director, Liquvision. Dr. Ehrling, a very warm welcome to you, and I hand it over to you now. You are on mute.
I'm sorry, just my computer ran out of energy, so I had to look for
Okay, we all are dealing with technical issues in the... Okay, so I hand it over to you, Dr. Ehrling.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sapna, for having the opportunity to present or to have a talk today about the future of connected lighting systems. And I would like to share my screen. All right. I was approached some time ago to share my thoughts about the future of connected lighting systems. And so I'm not talking about lighting design, but really about trends that we see in the lighting industry, and that will certainly dominate the lighting infrastructure in the future, because it will become more and more oriented to IoT solutions and to connected lighting systems. And so I would like to start with a macro trend analysis that we did actually some time ago already. It's not so long ago, it's only 2 months ago or 1 month ago. And it's about trends that we see and what does this mean for the consequences for lighting. And when we look at several industries, starting with the offices, then we see, of course, due to the pandemic, we see a strong shift to home offices. On the other hand, we see an increased need for workspace or for space in offices for collaboration, cooperation, and for creative processes. So what we believe is that the net space of offices remain constant in the future, but we see less desks and more collaboration space. And so, of course, this has some consequences for lighting. And these consequences for lighting are that, from our perspective, lighting will become more decorative in the future, lighting will become more flexible, and local lighting is required And since we have this move from very strict installations and, like you see on the left-hand side, and very standard installations to more flexible installations, to more decorative lighting, we see here, in particular, of course, when we talk about refurbishments we see a strong shift from the lighting control systems to wireless solutions in the future. Another trend that we see for offices, but not only for offices, that we see a specific operating system for several industries. And when you focus here, or when we focus here on offices, we will see that in the future, the operating system of offices will not be based on a classic building management system like KNX or others, but it will be based on much more flexible systems, because we need to integrate in the future functionalities like desk booking, find my colleague, locker access, or also I don't know, the charger for my electric car or things like that. And this will be integrated in these operation systems for offices. But again, it can be also a specific retail operating systems, a specific hotel operating system, co-working spaces, and all this, because this requires, or we see a requirement in these specific functions in the future. And when we look at the consequences for lighting, we can say that this means we will have much more sensors in the lighting network in the future, because the lighting network is an ideal carrier, of course, for sensors, because we can provide electricity and we have lighting everywhere in the building. We see a system architecture in the future, which is all IP. Respectively, we have gateways with a wireless mesh connectivity behind for the lighting controls as well. Of course, you all know Kasambi or M-Wave, for instance, and they have these mesh IP Bluetooth solutions already. And again, here, due to the required flexibility that we foresee in the future and the change of tenants and of requirements, we also see a shift from the lighting controls to be wireless. When we look at the industry, we see a strong shift from CAPEX to OPEX, so from capital expenses to operational expenses for non-productive assets. This means that the industry will spend the money for operation and not for capital expenses, so for lighting. So lighting will become a service, more and more a service in the future. And what are the consequences for lighting when we talk about this? When I have a service agreement, of course, I need to monitor the compliance to the conditions of use. So this means I need to monitor the burning hours, I need to monitor dim levels, temperature, and all these things to really make sure that this is exactly to what the contract is about. And for the industry, we also see, of course, a strong shift to wireless solutions. This is mainly dominated by the lack of wired infrastructure in the ceiling. When we look to the current situation, we see high bay installations with high intensity discharge lamps, HID lamps, and since they couldn't be dimmed anyway, we have no wired infrastructure here. And if I change this to LED solutions in the future, then of course we have to have a wireless lighting control solutions here. Another very important trend in the industry, but not only in industry, also in other industries, is the indoor navigation, which becomes more and more important in the future. And for the next step in automation and tracking of goods, tracking of people, tracking of all other components in this industrial process. And this can be performed by triangulation, of course, and this is based on radio frequency or on lighting. And in both cases, this has a certain impact on the lighting infrastructure, because light points carry one thing, the infrastructure for radio frequency, or it can be also modulated onto the lighting. Due to the modulation of the light sources, we can, with this technology, enable a very precise indoor infrastructure or indoor positioning. Indoor positioning. When we look at the food retail trend, we see that Amazon and others are revolutionizing this offline grocery shopping, of course, also a trend which we will see not only in food retail, but in other retail industries as well. And when we look at this, we expect a strong shift to the requirements of indoor navigation and also automatic checkout. And what are the consequences for lighting here? Again, light points can carry the infrastructure for antennas or just modulated onto lighting. We have a higher quality of lighting. Spotlights focus on the point of sale because we have a certain competition between offline and online grocery shopping. And the lighting will also become the ideal carrier for the sensing technology to ensure that when I have this automatic checkout, that I really ensure that all people, all goods that are checked out, that they are really into the system, that are part of the system, and that they are here, being on the bill. The next trend that we see in the residential market or residential automation market is that internet giants will take over the home control. And we see this, of course, with Apple and Apple's HomeKit, or also with Google. And they are moving from this media control into home automation. And we believe this might be a disrupting component in the industry. We have a very easy connection from our smartphones or tablets to a wireless world due to the Bluetooth, which is always part of this component or part of my tablet or smartphone. We have a very easy commissioning, and people are used to do the commissioning and operation with a smartphone or with a tablet.
And I hand it over to you now. You are on mute.
I'm sorry, just my computer ran out of energy, so I had to look for the card.
Okay, we all are dealing with technical issues in the. Okay, so I hand it over to you, Dr. Elling.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sapna, for having the opportunity to present or to have a talk today about the future of connected lighting systems. And I would like to share my screen. All right. I was approached some time ago to share my thoughts about the future of connected lighting systems. And so I'm not talking about lighting design, but really about trends that we see in the lighting industry and that will certainly dominate the lighting infrastructure in the future, because it will become more and more oriented to IoT solutions and to connected lighting systems. And so I would like to start with a macro trend analysis that we did actually some time ago already. It's not so long ago, it's only 2 months ago or 1 month ago. And it's about trends that we see and what does this mean for the consequences for lighting. And when we look at several industries, starting with the offices, then we see, of course, due to the pandemic, we see a strong shift to home offices. On the other hand, we see an increased need for workspace or for space in offices for collaboration, cooperation, and for creative processes. So what we believe is that the net space of offices remain constant in the future, but we see less desks and more collaboration space. And so, of course, this has some consequences for lighting. And these consequences for lighting are that from our perspective, lighting will become more decorative in the future, lighting will become more flexible, and local lighting is required. And since we have this move from very strict installations and, like you see on the left-hand side, and very standard installations to more flexible installations, to more decorative lighting, we see here, in particular, of course, when we talk about refurbishments, we see a strong shift from the lighting control systems to wireless solutions in the future. Another trend that we see for offices, but not only for offices, that we see a specific operating system for several industries. And when you focus here, or when we focus here on offices, we will see that in the future, the operating system of offices will not be based on a classic building management system like KNX or others, but it will be based on much more flexible systems, because we need to integrate in the future functionalities like desk booking, find my colleague, locker access, or also the charger for my electric car or things like that. And this will be integrated in these operation systems for offices. But again, it can be also a specific retail operating systems, a specific hotel operating system, co-working spaces, and all this, because this requires, or we see a requirement in these specific functions in the future. And when we look at the consequences for lighting, we can say that this means we will have much more sensors in the lighting network in the future, because the lighting network is an ideal carrier, of course, for sensors, because we can provide electricity and we have lighting everywhere in the building. We see a system architecture in the future, which is all IP. Respectively, we have gateways with a wireless mesh connectivity behind for the lighting controls as well. Of course, you all know Kasambi or M-Wave, for instance, and they have these mesh IP Bluetooth solutions already. And again, here, due to the required flexibility that we foresee in the future and the change of tenants and of requirements, we also see a shift from the lighting controls to be wireless. When we look at the industry, we see a strong shift from CAPEX to OPEX, so from capital expenses to operational expenses for non-productive assets. This means that the industry will spend the money for operation and not for capital expenses for lighting. So lighting will become a service, more and more a service in the future. And what are the consequences for lighting when we talk about this? When I have a service agreement, of course, I need to monitor the compliance to the conditions of use. So this means I need to monitor the burning hours, I need to monitor dim levels, temperature, and all these things to really make sure that this is exactly to what the contract is about. And for the industry, we also see, of course, a strong shift to wireless solutions. This is mainly dominated by the lack of wired infrastructure in the ceiling. When we look to the current situation, We see high bay installations with high intensity discharge lamps, HID lamps, and since they couldn't be dimmed anyway, we have no wired infrastructure here. And if I change this to LED solutions in the future, then of course we have to have a wireless lighting control solutions here. Another very important trend in the industry, but not only in industry, also in other industries, is the indoor navigation, which becomes more and more important in the future. For the next step in automation and tracking of goods, tracking of people, tracking of all other components in this industrial process. And this can be performed by triangulation, of course, and this is based on radio frequency or on lighting. And in both cases, this has a certain impact on the lighting infrastructure because light points carry one thing, the infrastructure for radio frequency, or it can be also modulated onto the lighting. Due to the modulation of the light sources, we can, with this technology, enable a very precise indoor infrastructure or indoor positioning. Indoor positioning. When we look at the food retail trend, we see that Amazon and others are revolutionizing this offline grocery shopping, of course, also a trend which we will see not only in food retail, but in other retail industries as well. And when we look at this, we expect a strong shift to the requirements of indoor navigation and also automatic checkout. And what are the consequences for lighting here? Again, light points can carry the infrastructure for antennas or just modulated onto lighting. We have a higher quality of lighting. Spotlights focus on the point of sale because we have a certain competition between offline and online grocery shopping. And the lighting will also become the ideal carrier for the sensing technology to ensure that when I have this automatic checkout, that I really ensure that all people, all goods that are checked out, that they are really into the system, that are part of the system, and that they are here, being on the bill. The next trend that we see in the residential market or residential automation market is that internet giants will take over the home control. And we see this, of course, with Apple and Apple's HomeKit, or also with Google. And they are moving from this media control into home automation. And we believe this might be a disrupting component in the industry. We have a very easy connection from our smartphones or tablets to a wireless world due to the Bluetooth, which is always part of these components or part of my tablet or smartphone. We have a very easy commissioning, and people are used to do the commissioning and operation with a smartphone or with a tablet. So yeah, again, Apple's HomeKit is an example. And when you look at Apple HomeKit on the internet page, you will find many, many different applications like lighting, HVAC, or any others. And all these can be used in a very easy way for consumers because we are used to this technology. And we also have an integrated voice control. So we believe that also in terms of lighting, there might be a disruption which continuously eats its way up into all applications. So we start with the media controls, but we are now at lighting as well, and HVAC and others. But we expect that there will be much more disruption also in other industries. So we move here again from wired lighting solutions to wireless connected lighting solutions. For retail malls, and I think this is a trend which is not only in Europe, but worldwide, we have a growing need in having more entertainment and experience factor because they have to compete against all these online shopping players. And so it become more and more relevant to have more this experience entertainment factor that I will see in a mall. So I'm not only going to a mall because I want to shop. I will also go there because I want to experience something new. When I go there with my kids, And so from our thoughts, we believe that lighting will be much more fast and flexible. We see that the entertainment lighting and general lighting requires a strong integration, and also the scene setting on demand and remotely. And again, this means here that we have a wireless lighting solutions that we expect in the future. Another trend which goes in the same direction is also more connectivity. And this is convenient through technology to make data available for the operators and for the consumers. And again, this is based on technologies that are already introduced. So automated payments, indoor navigations are required for this new mall connectivity and for this convenience that I can provide to my customers and clients. And we also certainly will see much more sensors giving information about people flow, giving information about room conditions, and also react, of course, on people flow, react on room conditions in terms of energy efficiency or sustainability. And again, here we see the requirement for an integration of lots of sensors in the lighting infrastructure. It will not preliminarily have an impact on the lighting, but on the lighting infrastructure. Again, this is really important. The last trend that I would like to talk about is hospitality. We see for the hospitalities, it's somehow the same thing. We see extended functions and intelligence, which is required. Why is it required? Because we believe, and we see this also in our projects that we are working on, that a hotel becomes more and more a home office-like environment with co-working spaces and other components which can be individualized on my personal preference. And so this means that the room control is not only a room control with my smartphone or with my tablet anymore. I certainly can also book amenities, or I can have my specific settings for this room, and maybe I can take these settings as my personal settings to the next hotel of the same brand. And when I go there, I can start automatically is the right setting started then when I entered the room the first time, and maybe the movie is starting at the right timing where I stopped it last time. And certainly also we will see things like indoor navigation, monitoring of room quality and all these parameters. And this meets here as well. Lighting is an idle carrier for sensors to provide all these data, because these data are really required. And another trend that we see in hospitality is the need for sustainable megastructures. We expect to have 75% of the world's population living in cities by 2025. And so we are talking about 6 billion people maybe. And there are already currently the largest hotel is in Malaysia with 7,500 keys. This one here is under construction, Saudi Arabia. It's more than 10,000 keys. So we will see one structure, one building, one hotel where we have at the same time 30,000 people, which is for German relations at least a reasonable city. And of course, energy efficiency and sustainability is really important when we talk about these megastructures. And they will be the driver for smart technologies as well. And this, of course, includes lighting. So facility services are on demand, lighting will be on demand. Many other room parameters again, and this is all based on a sensor grid, and this sensor grid will certainly be part of the lighting infrastructure. And finally, coming to global trends, two global trends. The first of all, I would say, is energy efficiency, and the latest local and global commitments to Paris and beyond. This will increase the demand for connected and efficient solutions. This is no doubt. So we will have lighting on demand solutions. So according to requirements in terms of lux levels or others, according to presence, to daylight income. And we believe this will become mandatory in commercial developments. And of course, lighting is not all. At the end of the day, we can save much more energy when we include HVACs, for instance, or other services as well. So we will see multiple sensors that are required for the optimized operation of buildings, and they will be again integrated in the lighting infrastructure. And the next and the last trend that we see is sustainability. We see a growing sensibility and also regulations in the first world societies towards a more conscious consumption behavior. And what we found out that the environmental social governance becomes really relevant. We see that the appropriateness of light and lighting solutions increasingly considered against the background of sustainability. This is a project that we are currently working on in Antwerp in Belgium. This is our concept, and finally, all the facade lighting was cancelled by the authorities. And this not only by energy efficiency reasons, but also due to insects and many other reasons. So we have, of course, some landscape lighting for security reasons and also for the beautification of this building or of this development, but the facade lighting is completely cancelled. And the cradle-to-cradle approach is certainly also something that becomes more and more significant in the future, also for lighting and lighting controls equipment. This is a project that we are currently, it's under construction in Düsseldorf in Germany. It's a wood building, and this is a cradle-to-cradle project. And it was a challenge to find cradle-to-cradle solutions in lighting as well, but we believe this will become a trend in the future due to this growing sensibility. So when I summarize the applications for this lighting control, for modern lighting control systems, we see as a strong need for support of energy efficiency. We see a flexible inventions in and the monitoring of lighting. We see easy commissioning and control via apps, and these smartphones or tablets then acts as an IP gateway. Wireless solutions are required in many cases, and the lighting infrastructure will become the backbone of a sensor grid. And two more slides about the lighting control market to give you an idea of what this means, all these trends means in the future. We see, based on a study by Merkel and Sears from November 2020, we see an expected growth of smart lighting and control systems of about 14% per year until 2026. And this is a strong growth. And within this growth, we see that software applications, wireless controllers, gateways are showing a relatively strong growth in this overall market. So we see this trend here to become more and more digital, of course. And what are the drivers for the strong growth? We see basically 4 points: the control about energy cost or energy cost consumption, automation and integration of sensors. We see that wireless technology has become an integral part of our daily life. And so we are very much used to it, and smartphones enable the full functionality for the end users. This is certainly something which is really driving the market. The demand of intelligent lighting controls for smart lighting is increasing in a tremendous way, because LEDs can do so much things, and innovations in smart home technology are, with a growing number of smart homes and smart cities, also driving this market very strongly. But however, there's no common standard available at the moment, so this becomes more and more complicated. Certainly in the future, we see, on the other hand, a strong demand for multi-vendor solutions. So when we just looking at companies like like Kasambi, for instance, Kasambi is focused on the lighting, that's fine, but to have all these potential, to use all the potential that we see in the automation and IoT world of buildings, this is certainly not enough. So we will see in the future the need, even much more stronger need, for an integration of different technologies. And on the other hand, we see still that there is no common protocol for IoT components. There is a trend to MQTT service, and there's a trend to JSON protocol, which then can be the basis for interoperability between different components. But this is not the case at the moment. However, software-enabled lighting controls, enabled by the smart lighting and Internet of Things evolution, will be a game changer in the world of lighting, and we believe it will ultimately transform the industry. Thank you so much. This was my brief presentation about these thoughts about the future of lighting, of connected lighting solutions, and what all these change in different industries will mean for lighting, and what does this mean for the requirements on lighting solutions and connected lighting solutions. Thank you. You are muted. I can't hear you. You're muted. Sapna?
Yes, I was on mute. Sorry for that. So, but those were some very interesting points that you highlighted in the presentation. Can we now also have Ms. Sudeshna Mukhopadhyay join us now? Ms. Sudeshna, you had that presentation. You had a look at it. What do you have to say? Like Dr. Elling just mentioned in his presentation, that software-enabled lighting controls are the future now. Convenience and on-demand lighting, energy efficiency are the drivers for these lighting systems. What do you have to say?
True. I mean, that's a trend. And I think it's, let's not deny that. I mean, we can't be in a state of denial. I think it's a question of adoption. The adoption levels for all new technology will be a little different in different countries. I mean, if I take the Indian perspective specifically, it has been so far very, very energy efficiency driven solution, right? It's a large country. You have metro cities, semi-urban, rural. I think it is important for the government, I mean, to really focus on demand side management quite a lot. And that's what it has been doing in the last few years with various government policies and moving on to LED. I think now that LED adoption has really reached almost a matured level at least in the urban and what we call about the Class B cities, I think it is now the next steps into adoption of this connected lighting. All the industry players, the lighting industry, are gearing up for it. So is Havells also very much into this space as well. And while we have seen quite a few installations of, let's say, more smart lighting solutions where it is more driven into the lighting part of it, there are already pilots in terms of connected lighting, which is happening in India as well, where lighting is talking to other services, they're connected to other services, so that the customer and the users in different perspective experience light in a different way. And of course, different levels of MIS also gets generated. Yes, so this is definitely the future. It will be interesting also to hear from Dr. Karsten on, how does the connected lighting bit of it, which is very technology driven, also weave into, lighting design practices to that matter. Will there be conflicts, or do you think this will be a seamless integration in terms of, meeting the lighting design requirements, ambience, human well-being, and getting driven by technology, or it's just a very synergetic or a complementary effort?
Well, I believe that we will, the functionality of lighting is how to use lighting, or how to also use, how to adapt lighting to certain applications and requirements, is something that can be done, let's say, with a DALI solution. Nowadays, it's quite easy. You can specify a DALI solution and you can fulfill many requirements. It's easy to integrate a sensor for daylight, for presence, or for others as well. And we also see a trend, of course, that much more functionality is integrated in the device itself. So we see that much more functionality is integrated in the luminaires. Say, when we talk about human-centric lighting, these controllers are part of the luminaires already. So we will see a shift, I believe, from the control system in some ways, in some sense, into the luminaire already, because with smart lighting luminaires, they can provide, it's kind of this edge technology approach. They have some knowledge already in, or some functionality. I think for us as a lighting designer, the problem is that currently that DALI is really a standard that we can rely on. And when we look at connected lighting systems, which have a much more connectivity with other buildings, or which requires a higher connectivity with other building services, and we look at modern solutions like a Sambi, we will see that this is still on its way. It's not really where we want to have it. So we have of course projects where we specified Kasambi solutions, and this works quite well, but it's just a lighting solution. It's not connected to any other building services. And when we look into the future and we want to really use all the potential of connected lighting systems, then I believe we are on the way, but it will take another several years until we really see this full integration, which is also easy to manage for us. I mean, there's one other thing. I believe we are working here in Germany, or also in Asia on some high-end projects. And what we see is that due to the fact that sensors will be an integrated part of the lighting infrastructure, sometimes the sensor specificator, some sensor specifier will take the control about the luminaire and not the lighting designer anymore. And this is something that we see in the future potentially, that we as a lighting designer are still focusing on the entrance lobby and on the facade. But the conventional, let's say the office lighting, all these, all downlights, all corridors and everything, which needs to have a sensor integrated, it's not us who's specifying this anymore, but it's the building technology company who's specifying this. And so there is potentially a shift in our work in the future.
Okay. Dr. Kastet, you also spoke about lighting as a service, which is coming into play, especially for the professional services. You also mentioned some benefits that it has, especially in terms of capex, what the companies are looking at. But what are the challenges associated with that?
The challenges for this, it's good. Well, it's a big trend. It's a big trend in particular for industries where you have where the requirements are really only based on functionality. I think this is the challenges. Well, let's put it the other way. There was in my presentation, there was one image which this was Lichtmiete. It's a German brand. It's a Deutsche Lichtmiete. It's German light rent, or I don't know how you translate this. And it's actually one of the strongest growing companies in the lighting industry in Germany currently. And I believe that we will see this as a trend in the future, that other companies have to have this business model as well. They have to adapt to this market, because companies are not willing to spend, let's say, 80 euros a square meter for the lighting installation when they can also rent this for, let's say, 15 euros a year, because they can save all the money that they're saving, they can put into operational costs and for the company growth or other terms. And I believe that this would be a strong, or it is already a very strong trend that we see in Germany. And I believe you will also see this in other companies as well, or in other countries. But when we look at this model, light as a service, we need to monitor many parameters of the lighting as well. And this also has an impact then, of course, on the sensors, which are required on the connected lighting infrastructure. And it also has an impact on us as a lighting designer, because then we are not the guys who are specifying the lighting, because this comes with the company already, because they are providing the service as well.
That's right. So Deshna, what you have to say, given the Indian scenario, infrastructure, cost, connectivity, how does that come in play for, connected lighting system?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Carsten very well, I think adequately explained that connected lighting is just not lighting alone, right? It has its dependency on other infrastructure as well. So it needs to grow together. I mean, it's not about only lighting manufacturer making a light fitting integrated with the, with sensors. It's not standalone anymore, which we were probably more used to, just day-night sensing. If we need the device to talk to each other, I mean, along with the building other services infrastructure, the communication infrastructure, the wireless infrastructure, I mean, they all need to be more robust, grow, have standardization. I think that is going to be one very important thing in terms of facilitating adoption. So including security and other elements. I mean, security, I talk about, data security, because all countries will be quite, will have their own paranoia about it. So I think all of these need to be integrated and woven together. And I think that is what it makes it, while we talk about it as a, a disruptive or a game changer, it is not the lighting industry alone or a designer alone. There are other players with different skill sets and competencies and technologies coming in, and it's a much larger space where we will now have to work on.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, I mean, it is important. So I think we've been talking in India quite a few about smart cities, right? I mean, we've had a lot of seminars, conferences, but the adoption and implementation is not at the same speed of, the other activities. And I think the IT, or what you can say, the communication infrastructure is one of the impediments. So that needs to be robust, reliable. That's very important, affordable, definitely, and, expandable as well. So I think if the Indian, the infrastructure, the telecom or the communication industry have to also play a big role in terms of IoT lighting.
That's right. Scalability, cost effectiveness, as well as the robustness of the infrastructure, that are the most important factors Ms. Mukhopadhyay just mentioned. Ms. Mukhopadhyay, you also mentioned about the security. So Dr. Carsten, let me go to you, in terms of cyber threats, the data privacy, and especially if we are talking about lighting as a service. So how do we, take care of that in connected lighting?
This is a good topic. Yeah.
I know it's a topic in itself.
Well, it's when I mentioned that we believe we have spoken to many stakeholders in this during this analysis as well, and actually it was not mentioned as a very important issue. However, I mean, when we have an all IP infrastructure and this all IP infrastructure is wired, then of course there's always the cloud connection, and there's a certain way to enter then the building system or the building management control system. Well, it's difficult for me to answer. I mean, I do my online banking, and so I wonder, when I do my online banking with my mobile or with my tablet, why shouldn't I control my light with my mobile or my tablet? Is this really a big issue? Of course, the building infrastructure will become more and more crucial in the future, and maybe it is an issue. I have no clue. It's not my topic. I don't know. We will see what happens there.
Probably next time we'll have some cyber expert also on our panel, to talk about this session. Because as both our experts have mentioned, lighting design is now not just the domain of lighting designers, but there are many other players and stakeholders now who are part of this entire designing. Apart from new buildings, what about retrofitting the existing commercial building with connected systems? So this goes to both of you. Dr. Carsten, what are the challenges if we are talking about retrofitting the buildings with new systems? And then Sudeshna, I'll come to you for the Indian scenario. Dr. Carsten.
Yeah, if are talking about lighting controls, then of course this is something which is really pushing to the wireless solution. And when we talk about wireless mesh solutions, we have certainly a solution which works pretty well in most buildings. However, the more we see retrofittings by wireless, by Bluetooth mesh solution, for instance, we will see more and more also problems on this side, because sometimes, I don't know, the wall is too thick that this mesh connection doesn't work anymore. But I think it will give a strong push to wireless solutions when we talk about retrofittings.
Okay, wireless solutions are the answer for retrofitting. Ms. Mukhopadhyay.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Kirsten, of course, touched upon it. I mean, if we take the Indian scenario, and it's not also for existing buildings. I'm going to touch upon that, but the wireless solutions will also become a little bit of an issue in the even new construction. Probably the design, layout, construction methods need to change, because in India we have usually brick walls in most, in many cases, specifically in the old buildings, and that is becoming a little bit of an impediment with the current systems which you have in terms of connectivity. But yes, if you talk about, let's say, intranet type of solutions, where do you have the local controls, I think for easy adoption, the wireless system is the easiest to go in for retrofitting into connected lighting. But there are also providers of hybrid solutions. So if you already have a DALI network, there are solution providers which have interface with a wired solution as well. So it's a wireless and a wireless solution. In the Indian scenario, my personal opinion, it's of course not, it's not a policy which I'm mentioning, that in the coming few years, we will see a hybrid solution, which will slowly, transgress into the wireless solutions. I think there will be work on both sides in terms of layout, design, materials being used. And at the same time, probably the wireless solutions which we have, in the transformers, the routers and everything, probably they will get upgraded, and of course there is a technology limitations everywhere, but probably we will be able to address the issues of signal attenuation in corners or around the bends or through spaces, from the the Wi-Fi service providers as well. So yes, I think it will be hybrid solutions to start with. We've already seen wireless adoption happening in India, so it's not that you don't have reference installations, but the large scale adoption will probably take time. So if you have very large buildings and they need to adopt immediately, I'm talking about retrofitting new buildings, you can always design around it, will be probably hybrid and moving on to wireless.
I completely agree. And maybe I can add one thing, that Kasami, for instance, they have 1 million knots on the market now, and 1 million knots is at that time a higher market penetration that DALI has had at the same time. So it is a wireless solution, so we will certainly see a trend, but I completely agree, all these disrupting industries, they always start with a hybrid in the beginning, like what we see for electric cars and everything. They have a fuel engine and an electro engine, and now we have more and more pure electro engine, but this is the normal way.
It's the normal way, or any adoption,
Yeah, exactly, early adopter. Yeah, but it's Kasami is more than 1 million knots already, so it's a strong growth there.
Fantastic. Also, like both of our speakers mentioned, technology is constantly evolving. We are constantly upgrading to newer systems and techs. Ms. Mukhopadhyay, do you think lack of standardization, what you spoke about, and interoperability between devices from various companies, how do we tackle that kind of a situation?
I think it was a much major issue even 4 or 5 years ago. But I do know, even if you take Bluetooth, as a mesh platform, there is already interoperability being talked about. So there are already systems available where probably you have a common stack and you build on that stack. So products from the same different manufacturers, they will be able to talk to each other. So yes, this is evolving. So everything probably will not happen together at the same time. But the good part of it, the providers of such technologies, which is beyond the lighting manufacturers, right? I'm talking about the communication chip over here. They have acknowledged this as an issue. So I guess the standards, the interoperability standards, these are all, the special interest groups, right? So Wi-Fi has SIG, Bluetooth Mesh has their own SIGs, where there are representations from different manufacturers as well, including lighting manufacturers now. They are forming they are key members of such groups. So these are being addressed. I mean, even DALI protocol, I mean, it took a few years to get everyone at the same platform. I remember in the early years, there were different protocols even within brands. I mean, it wasn't the same thing, and then it was standardized. So give it a couple of years, and I think, but it will be addressed. But it is an important issue. It is a very important issue.
I completely agree to this as well, because we see this, that Bluetooth there are different, there's this M-Waves on the market with Bluetooth, and there's Kasami with Bluetooth, and they all have their own stack, but it will certainly come together, because these multi-vendor solutions are really required in the market, and we see that all big companies are in this Bluetooth world now from the lighting industry, but it will take some time until this really works together. Yeah, but this is again normal when it starts a new industry.
In terms of scalability, if you have devices from various manufacturers, how do you look at the scalability from the consumer point of view?
Well, I think the scalability, I mean, well, this is a good question. I mean, for the home automation, we see that with my iPhone or with any other mobile phones or tablets, we can already integrate lots of components. And then I have my mobile, and my mobile or my smartphone is actually my IP gateway. I have no clue how many components I'm able to connect with this one, but it starts from the home automation where we have rather small installations, but I believe it will grow into professional applications as well. So we will see the technology is there already, and I think it's just a question of time. And I think it's scalable. It will be in the future.
Okay, so future looks bright. Things are, the systems are refining. We are making progress. Dr. Carlson, one question to you: how do you perceive the future of IoT connected public lighting infrastructure? Especially in smart cities, if you're talking about.
Yeah. Good question. I mean, I think that smart cities and exterior lighting, street lighting, this will be one of the drivers of these IoT solutions in the future, and it will probably become all IP. So it's maybe not a wired or a mesh solution anymore, but it will be G5 as a protocol, and all components will be directly being part of the internet in the future. Straight away, every single luminaire, and it can also have integrated sensors for presence or for other daylight, and this will be straight into a cloud, and then as an operator, I can see what is my energy consumption, and can I adjust my settings or whatever. It will be one of the biggest drivers of IP of IoT solutions for lighting applications, I believe.
Okay. Ms. Mukhopadhyay, how do you see that, from buildings, from, large built-up spaces coming into the public domain, IoT connected systems for public infrastructure?
Yeah, I think, it is obvious. It has to happen, and it is already happening. In fact, in India, I think the adoption probably maybe a little earlier in the outdoor spaces, because if you talk about the smart lighting solutions, and I can give reference of Havells. They've done very large projects in New Delhi, Faridabad, which is not only dimming solutions, color tunable solutions, depending on the time of the day, weather, seasonal, so these solutions are already there in the market, and they're already, there are large corporations and municipalities who are adopting it. So from there to moving into a complete IP-based solution, so like Faridabad, of course, Havells have their own system. So it's not an off-the-shelf system. So that's their own smart system. So it is a completely IP system, so each luminaire can be controlled to that extent. So yes, because since the public and the smart cities is very high on the government agenda, the others are subsets. Smart buildings, smart homes are all subsets of the smart city umbrella. Let me put it that way. All other service areas. So I do think the adoption there would be there. There are a lot of large corporations who have already started adapting the lighting solutions. The local manufacturers, Havells, have a big lead into it in terms of providing the solutions over there, because it's very high on the government agenda as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it's a very organic development from smart buildings. We started with smart homes, now smart buildings, smart offices, retail and hospitality, to now smart cities. So that was a very, Dr. Carlson, any last minute addition that you would like to make on the future of connected lighting?
Question. No, I think connected light. Well, I think lighting will really play a major role in the future when it comes to the automation and optimization of buildings due to this availability of energy in the ceiling, which covers all and every single part of the building. So lighting will be the carrier in the future of all these sensors and actors as well. So we have to adopt from our perspective as a lighting designer or as a company, as a lighting supplier, we have to have this in our thoughts, and we have to integrate all these services in the future, and somehow probably have to fight for our right to play in this market.
Okay.
It will become difficult, maybe because other players will try to move into this market as well from a different perspective, you know, from this automation sensor IoT world. So we have to fight for our place.
Okay, okay. Last words from you, Ms. Mukhopadhyay.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned that, you know, lighting is going to be an important building infrastructure. It's just not going to be, you know, provider for only visual comfort, aesthetics. They will become hygiene factors. You know, we realize that with the advent of LED, energy efficiency became a hygiene factor. Today, in any design, nobody is scrutinizing so much in terms of, you know, what's the connected load, because we know that it is coming down rapidly and it's, you know, sort of stabilizing. It's not going to go beyond it. So this is what the next. So lighting will become a very, very important infrastructure, you know, a building infrastructure, a city infrastructure, and would be taken probably in more seriousness, you know, than ever before. But as Dr. Carsten says that, you know, it is probably going to be a very interesting thing to happen, that, you know, who will dominate the space. But I do believe very strongly that it would be the lighting people who will dominate the space, as we, you know, we need to embrace new technologies. So as long as we are able to do that, and that's what we are doing, it is going to be an integrated, wholesome solution from the lighting industry. So connected, yes, is going to be the next future. We are already there. It's a question of facilitating adoption, you know. And I think such sessions like this also create awareness from international global experts. I think the users, the builders will have more confidence in terms of, you know, adopting and accepting these new technology and platforms.
That's right. That's right. In fact, in the present scenario, we have already seen that now that we have been spending more time inside, you know, so lighting has become one area that now we are taking it very seriously. And as you rightly mentioned, that lighting designers are going to be the people driving the entire, you know, chain of lighting systems, because wellness is now a very big factor, you know, especially through lighting. So thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Carsten Elling and Ms. Sudeshna Mukhopadhyay, for sharing your views and for answering the audience questions. I'm sure our viewers had some very valuable takeaways from today's session. And also our special thanks to Havells India for presenting this knowledge. As Ms. Mukhopadhyay rightly said, this is an awareness, you know, that we are creating among our consumers, among the people who are building spaces, and we are learning from our global compatriots, you know, what they are doing in their space. So, you know, this is all for the benefit of the Indian design fraternity. And, you know, let us also thank our awesome audience who have been here sharing their time, and they shared their queries as well, which we, you know, put up to our speakers. So thanks, viewers, for, you know, being here with us. Keep watching this space as we bring to you very soon yet another acclaimed design expert to share with us more about the magical world of lighting. But till then, thanks, Dr. Carsten, for being here with us, sharing your very expert views with us. Thanks, Sudeshna, for being here with us, sharing your valuable views with us. Till then, we meet. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.